Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Patty Henderson, the Math Marketing Manager here at Pearson, and I wanted to welcome you to our Pearson Mathology Online Information System session. Just a few housekeeping pieces here. All the attendees are currently in listen mode only. We are recording this session for either those who cannot attend or for you if you want to revisit later or share this session with a friend after, that would be great. We do have a chat box that you can use. My colleague Daniel Coe will monitor that chat, so if you have questions along the way, he'll share them with me and I'll try to answer them as we go. We'll also have a Q&A at the end. So the webinar walkthrough is roughly a half hour, and then at the end, if you want to stay behind and ask any questions, that would be just great. We'll be here for that. And any questions that either we don't get to at the end or we can't answer on the spot, we'll certainly follow up with you. So we wanted to welcome you to our session this evening. I just want to do a quick introduction to Pearson Mathology and Pearson Mathology. Mathology and Mathology is a set of K-8 print and digital resources that's rooted in academic research and best practices. It's co-created with over 1,000 classroom teachers and consultants across Canada and is underpinned by a practical Canadian learning progression. Mathology helps you to know where your students are and define next steps for growth, engage students at all levels while building their confidence in their math skills, instills a love of and a joy for math through rich, fun math activities and stories, supports job-embedded professional learning for teachers, and also supports French immersion. So Mathology is adapted for French immersion. And you'll see on the page here that we're sharing some of the resources that surround Mathology. In the middle, the research and professional learning. There's some titles there that you may be familiar with from us, from Taking Shape to What to Look For, Teaching Math with Meaning, as well as Elementary and Middle School Mathematics. And on the right, you'll see our student resources. We have grade 1 and 2 activity kits. We have 72 math little books from K to 3, and today's session focuses on Mathology.ca, our online component. When we first set out to consider building new resources for math, this is probably about 2 to 3 years ago, we did a lot of research around what's called the math teaching journey. You and I both know that this journey can be time-consuming, and it's a multi-step process. And we looked at long-range planning to short-term planning, teaching and preparing to teach, as well as assessing, reporting, and professional learning. And when we thought about doing an online piece for Mathology, we know that we needed something that would help shorten that journey in some way. The promise of technology is to make your lives a little bit easier, and that was the beginning of Mathology.ca. So the proposition, first of all, to simplify and enhance that math teaching journey we just walked through a smart use of technology. We also wanted to streamline planning, teaching, assessment, and professional learning. Those were those stops on that journey. And for those who are aware of our print resources, from the activity kits to the math little books, Mathology.ca also seamlessly integrates those Mathology components. That is a very quick overview. So what is it exactly? It's a simple online tool for teachers containing rich math activities and pedagogical supports, and it's powered by 5 core functionalities that we'll walk through today, from search to plan to teach, assess, and track, as well as professional learning. And rather than talking about it, I thought today we'd spend some time showing you what Mathology.ca looks like. I'm just going to quickly sign in. And the first screen that you should see here is actually our welcome screen, or our home screen for Mathology.ca. And right across the middle, you'll see a bar for search. And there's a variety of ways of searching for really good lessons in Mathology.ca. So again, right at the very beginning when we started doing research for this product, we heard from teachers that they were spending a lot of time online trying to find really great lessons. for math. And these lessons could be from teacher paid teachers or Pinterest, a variety of places that you can get lesson plans. But teachers said to us, it's time consuming for one. And when you do find a lesson, it's hard to know whether that lesson is actually at the right level for students, and if it matches the curriculum. So we set about creating a really rich bank of lesson plans that will really support math teaching and learning. And this is our very simple search. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the ability to search by curriculum. So we're trying to tame that fire hose of really good math learning. And as you can see here, I've pulled up search by curriculum. The curriculum that I have here today is the Ontario curriculum. Just know that every province actually has its own curriculum and own pathway for Mathology.ca. Across the top, you'll see the strands from your curriculum, the 5 strands there. And if I scroll down, you'll see the overall expectations from this. The one we're looking at today is number, sense, and numeration. So if I click on the first overall expectation there, which is read, represent, compare, etc., a menu will pull down and you'll see all of your specific expectations from your curriculum. And beside each one of those is a magnifying glass. So that magnifying glass is our search icon. So if I click on that, you'll see that it pulls up, at this point, it's pulling up 10 results for that specific expectation around counting. And as I scroll down, you'll see what those lessons look like. They're actually activities from our print activity kit and one of our math little books. So those are 10 lessons that you could search for and find for that specific expectation. You can also do a bit more of a sort here by strand, alphabetical order, or lesson order as well. So that is the search by curriculum. Very important. That might be the way you want to start with Mathology.ca. I also mentioned that we had a Pearson Canada Learning Progression. It's our developmental continuum that we built. We took a long look at all the developmental continuums that are out there, from prime to first steps in math, and we wanted to create a continuum that was the best of all of those, that would really make knowing where your students are and where to go next with next steps come to life. And it's the foundation for Mathology, the print resources, the activity kit, but also is built in as the foundation for Mathology.ca. So you can search by the learning progression. So I will pull that up. And when you're inside here, across the top, you'll see the strands. And just below that, you'll see the big ideas around this learning progression. And the first one, numbers tell us how many and how much. And just below that, you'll see conceptual threads that support that big idea. I'm just going to click on the first one here, which is applying the principles of counting. And what you will see here is exactly where you would be in that learning progression from K to 3. And there are 3 here that you can see. The first one, the one that's in the middle, for instance, student says the number name sequence backward from numbers to 10. There is, again, a search icon. I'll click on that. And you'll see right on that specific place in the continuum, there is a math little book called Acorns for Wilaya. It's a grade K little book, and it looks at number. So that is the Pearson Canada Learning Progression come to life within Mathology.ca. The other very simple way that you might want to search is our search bar here. So I'm going to type in skip counting because that's one of my favorite. I'm going to do a quick search. And as you can see from here, there are actually 80 results. So we're taming that roughly 105 lessons down to 80 that involve skip counting. And I'll just do a quick scroll down so you can see how rich this database is. So lots of lessons that support skip counting. And again, you can magnify that and bring that search down by grade as well, from grade 1 to 2 or K, by strand, alphabetical order, and lesson order. So that narrows your search one more time. So that is our search result. There's one other way of searching, and that is around planning for your year. When we started building Mathology.ca, we knew that teachers would like some support around planning for a week, a year. And so at the very top, you'll see home, which is where we are, a favorites button, which I'll explain a little bit later, and a plan. So when I click on the plan, you'll see you can search by most recent plan, or you can search by all plans. And I'm going to go into all plans. And there's a variety of ways that you can actually plan in Mathology.ca. You have the option of creating a new plan, and I'll show you what creating a new plan looks like. The first one I like to show actually is for those who are just freshly starting out with Mathology and really are hoping to have a bit of a plan laid out so they can get used to it, understand it, work with it, and then maybe once they've gotten used to this plan, can start building their own. So I'll start with the built-in ones. And we've been able to provide 3 options here, and it really depends on how you look at teaching. This is Mathology.ca is grade 1. How you might start your year. Some teachers may start with number and then build out to measurement and come back to number and go out to patterning. Some teachers start with patterning at the beginning of the year. It just kind of makes sense when you have a chance to go outside and see what patterns there are in nature and work from that. So there's a variety of ways that you can actually start your year, and we wanted to give you an option for each. So I'm going to go into option 2. When I click on option 2, down the left-hand side, you will see your year starting in September. It could be the 2nd or 3rd week of September. And this one will start with investigating repeating patterns first. And what you'll see, what it pulls up would be the lessons that you would teach for that week. And so we have Midnight and Snowfall, which is a grade 1 little book that looks at patterning. Our little books are roughly 2 weeks of instruction. So this one will also land in your search for in the 2nd week on creating patterns. And then you'll see some lessons that are using our activity kit in there as well. When we go into the next week, creating patterns, again, we're still with Midnight and Snowfall, and you have a few more activities that you can use as well. And so that built-in plan is a real helpful tool, especially for those who have already started implementing Mathology print resources. This one is a great relief for most teachers, and so those sample plans are in there. Once you get used to the resource and you use it a bit and you think, you know what, I really feel confident enough to create my own plan. I want to start incorporating some of my favorite lessons that I've gathered throughout the year, or I might want to build on resources I already have. And how can I do that within Mathology.ca? So I'm going to hit create a new plan. And you have 2 choices at this point, to start with a blank plan or use one that's already there and build on it. I'm going to start with a blank plan. And at this point, you can name it. And I'm going to call this counting. You can name this just about anything you want and save. And what happens, the screen pulls up and you'll see down the right-hand side, there's a list of favorite lessons. We'll dig a bit deeper into favorites. Just know that as you are working with the lessons in Mathology.ca, you have the ability to favorite them and they will pull up here and you can start planning your week or year this way. And it's very simple. You might want your favorite lesson around operational fluency for more and less. Just simply drag that over and you can write a comment about that lesson. This is my favorite lesson. I use it in the 2nd week of the year. You can title that anything you like. It could be operational fluency because there are a couple lessons that involve that. And then you might want to add lesson 31. Simply drag and drop it in. Again, you can write any comment there. So it's a really simple planner to create your own plan. I'm going to scroll down a bit. The piece that I think most teachers have told us they love about this as well is that you can add a non-Mathology lesson. And you're seeing this down the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to click on that. And what this does is bring up a field that you can put a title in there. This is, my favorite YouTube video. It's my lesson from my district that I love, whatever that title might be, a short description if you want it. The piece that's important here is the URL. So you can attach to your lesson anything that you have that you love, as long as it has a URL. So it could be that you have some great lessons in Google. You can put that in there. So you can put in any URL, save it, and that becomes part of your lesson as well. When you do that and you start creating your own lessons, there are a few things that you might want to do. In this top right-hand corner with these buttons, if I click on that, As you're building your plan, you probably will want to take another look at your curriculum coverage, making sure that as you're building it, you have uncovered as much as possible. That's a really great tool. There's a material list, and so this material list will build any of the MIPs that you might use for these lessons. It will give you that list and you can print it off. The other great thing you can do here is share this lesson. So if your district has a license, you can build a really great community around Mathology.ca where you're sharing your favorite lessons with schools in your district. Or if you're in a school and you have other teachers that also have a license for Mathology.ca, you can do some great team building here and sharing your lessons that way. And last but not least, if you want to export these lessons, you certainly can. So that is a very quick walkthrough of the search tool within Mathology.ca. I thought the next thing I would show you is an actual lesson itself. So as you know, I told you before, skip counting is my favorite. So I have a lesson pinned to my desktop. I'm going to go into skip counting forward and back. So this walkthrough of a lesson has 4 parts to it. Every lesson is built exactly the same way. There is a section that's about. We'll walk through that first. There's details across the top, assessment, and related resources. And here's the spot where you can put a favorite if you would want to favorite that lesson. So in that very first about, this is where you learn about that lesson. You can see the activity time, the group size. This one's in pairs. For teachers that are not math specialists, we wanted to give them as much math background as possible for each lesson. And so this is the content background that supports that teacher. The focus for that lesson, this one's skip counting forwards by 2s, 5s, and 10s. Your curriculum match here. We also wanted to give you cross-strand connections, and these are important. So for this lesson on skip counting, there's also a great cross-reference to patterning and algebra, the processes and competencies from your curriculum. And at the bottom, you'll see our learning progression. And for this lesson, this is our learning progression here, and you can see there are boxes that are highlighted in blue. That is exactly where you are on that K-3 learning progression. And for this lesson, we're actually unpacking 2 big ideas. Numbers tell you how many and how much, as well as quantities and numbers can be grouped by or partitioned into equal size units. And so this gives you a sense of where you are and where you might want to go next with this lesson. So that's the about. When we get into details, this is your actual lesson. For those of you who have the activity kit already with the print cards, you'll recognize this layout. This is the front of a teacher card. The top left-hand corner, you'll see the strand. In this case, this is a number. The materials that you're using for this activity. And to the right, you'll see the pieces that you'll need to access for this. And so there's a curriculum correlation in PDF and Word. And for this one, there's an assessment master also in PDF and Word. And so what we wanted to do here is provide you instant access to the tools you need. And we have them in PDF in case you love it exactly the way it is. But we also put it in Word because we know a lot of teachers would like to modify these based on the students they have in front of them each year. So you have that option. As I scroll down, you'll see the lesson, simple 3-part lesson where you have a before in red on the left, what to do during, as well as ideas for differentiating. And you also have the piece that most teachers really appreciate about our lessons, the consolidation. How do I know my students are understanding and getting what they need from this activity? It might be fun, but it also has to get us moving forward. And so that consolidation piece is really important. Scrolling down a bit so you can also see the watch fors or what to look for as you are watching students doing this activity. And at the very bottom, you'll see probing questions. So when we were first developing the activities, teachers said to us, you know what, when we're circulating, we can see what the students are doing as they're either playing this game or working on this activity, but I really want to know what they're thinking. And the best way to uncover what they're thinking is to ask some probing questions, and these aren't always easy to come up with. So you'll always see 4 or 5 at the bottom in blue that will help support. The next piece I wanted to share with you will be some of the things that you can project around this activity. So I'm going to start right off the bat with the print card. This is the teacher card. You just saw the online version. This is exactly the same thing, but in print. And these are in our activity kits. One of the great things you can do here is print anything. So at the bottom, if you see an icon that looks like a printer, you may print that. I'm going to flip over to the back of the card, and this is really important to help understand where your students are, the things that you might see and hear as they're working through this activity, and next steps. And so this is our learning progression come to life with each activity. You can see that there are a variety of 6 things that you might see as students are playing this activity. It's called Gourd the Groundhog, skip counting. These are the activities and behaviors that you might see, and some in-the-moment next steps to help those students progress from here to here. So on grade is right at the very bottom right-hand corner. So that's the back of the card for the teacher. The other great thing you can do is project the student cards. And so I'm going to show you the front and back of Gourd the Groundhog. So on this side, you can see that there are 50 acorns. On the reverse side, there are 20. So again, helping you differentiate and making sure that all of your students can participate in the same activity. There's usually 2 sides to each card. And these you can project at the front of the class on whiteboards and have students come up with markers and work on Gourd the Groundhog. And again, the other piece that teachers love about this, especially those who have the activity kit in print, you can print each one of these student cards as well. We know you don't lose these things, but just in case you do, you can print them. There is a multi-use card that you can share here. This one's a 100 chart that will be quite useful. And you can also see a completed card for Gourd the Groundhog. And this is, of course, skip counting by 2s. So that is a quick overview of what you can project at the front of the class. We talked about professional learning. One of the things that we really wanted to work on and help support teachers with is job-embedded professional learning. We know that across Canada, in almost every province, getting release time is really, really hard right now. And so it's hard to gather and talk about these important big ideas in math. And so what we did to help support you is to create short 1 to 2 minute videos that show you what to do with this activity, why am I doing it, and what things might I look for. And so I'm going to show you a quick video that will tell you all about Gourd the Groundhog. And it's in this right-hand panel. You can see on the right it says professional learning, and here's the video here. So I'm going to click on that and play it.
When we skip count, we organize objects into smaller groups of equal size and count by the number of objects in each group. For example, there are 2 cubes in each group, so we skip count by 2s. 2, 4, 6. Or there are 5 cubes in each group, so we skip count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. No matter what number we skip count by, the last number said represents the total number of acorns. Do your students realize that no matter how the 50 cubes are counted, the quantity stays the same? Or how the fewer cubes in each group, the more groups there are? During consolidation, discuss how skip counting may help students, both at school and at home.
So that is our short video on supporting this lesson on Gourd the Groundhog. There are over 100 lessons in Mathology.ca at grade 1, 185 at grade 2. And so there is a short video for each one of these. So that's some great in-the-moment professional learning for teachers. At the bottom of details, you'll also see interactives. We've built roughly 100 widgets that you can use from class as well. At the bottom of this one, one of the best things you can use with Gourd the Groundhog is the 100 chart tool. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll see a widget here that you can use for skip counting. So if I hit skip counting, and 1 to 100 is fine. And I might want to skip count by 2s. Enter. And start. And so you can start the patterning with skip counting by 2s. You can skip count by 5s. So it's a really great front of class tool that you can use. And I am going to come back. And so that's the bottom of details. The next important part, we just talked about the lesson and placing your students along a continuum to see where they are and what your next steps might be. And so right now we're going to take a look at assessment. What I'm going to show you now looks very, very much like the back of that teacher card we just showed you. And the promise of technology, again, it really is meant to save you time. And so rather than carry that card with you and write your students in whatever box you see them as they are doing Gord the Groundhog, this way, if you have an iPad, you can actually start dragging and dropping. So this is one of the easiest ways to get a look at where your students are. So across the top, we have students that you have built in to your class. And as I'm walking around, I see that Jeff is here. He does not associate the skip counting number with a quantity. Might not need to do some work with Jeff. And so when you see Jeff, there's a spot here where you can add a note and you can say, you know, I need to work a bit more with Jeff here. Bev is here. Owen might be here. And Berta with Bev. Ioana here. So you can see that we can build this as we go. It's important to know where your students are, but quite frankly, the power in Mathology.ca is knowing those next steps. I might know where the students are, but how can I help them progress from here and to on grade? And so at the bottom of each one of these boxes, you'll see something that's called next steps. So if you click on next steps, how can I help Jeff? Here is an indication of what you can do in the moment to help support Jeff and move him into the next box. When we go over a little bit further for Owen and look at next steps, you'll see there's some in the moment ones, but there's also additional next steps. And one of the things I'm going to show you next are some really great mini lessons that help support moving students along. This one, you can go directly to a mini lesson, an intervention lesson. Students are having difficulty with skip counting sequences. What can I do to help Owen? And so we'll go there next. So you can see that's a really easy way of seeing where your students are and moving them forward. The piece that is linked directly to each lesson assessment would be the analytics. This is the dashboard that helps you understand where your students are, where there might be some gaps, and where you can help them progress. So I'm going to go up to the top again. We had talked about home and favorites and plan. Right next to that is analytics. So when I click on analytics, you'll see the drop-down menu says class, analytics, and student. I'm going to go into class. So with that lesson, you just actually started building some analytics that you can take a look at. And so we are in that class we just looked at. And here is your dashboard. The dashboard right now is in activity view. So here are the lessons. You might be approaching either parent-teacher night, or it might be getting close to report card time and you're wondering, what lessons have I done and where are my students? And you can see that students are in progress. If it's red, you might need to work with those students a little bit longer. If they're green, they're good and they're ready to go. You can see on the right-hand side where they are in that back of the card and where to go next with them. So that is your class view, and it's looking at an activity. You might want the curriculum view. Where am I within the curriculum, and where do I need to go next? And so this will show you what parts of the curriculum you have uncovered already. And those are overall expectations. If you want to get into the specifics, we didn't want to clutter this page, but if you want to get into the specifics, go under Advanced View. And you can see the curriculum view, which is detailed, and that pulls up your overall as well as your specific expectations. Or if you wanted to take a look at the progression view, so that Pearson Canada Learning Progression, and see where your students are along that progression. So that is the class view. It could be parent-teacher night, and you might want to take a look at just a student. I'm going to go into Jeff, who's our student, and here's a really great way you might be side by side with parents and showing them what lessons you have worked on with Jeff, where he's in progress, where he's on track, where he might need some attention, and then you can get into the details. What am I going to do to help Jeff next? And you'll see that that's the activity assessment and where they might be, and you can view that entire assessment again here. So really great support for knowing where your students are, where to go next, and having that dashboard handy at any time. So that is assessment. The last piece I'm going to walk you through is related resources. So with related resources, I mentioned earlier, the ability to know what your next steps are. It's great to have some in-the-moment next steps, but also some mini lessons that support that grouping of students. And so there's a mini lesson for every lesson plan in here. There's one that's on grade. There's typically 2 interventions, and there's an extension. So for on grade, for skip counting, building and comparing 2-digit numbers using 10s and 1s, you might want an extra mini lesson. And this is your mini lesson here. It talks about materials you're using. It shows you how that lesson might progress. And each one of these you can actually print off if you need to. There's also an intervention one. And typically for the skip counting, 2 things happen here. So the first one, students having difficulty recognizing a group of 10 as a unit or 10 ones. What can I do? What mini lesson can I do to support those students? This is the mini lesson for that intervention. And you can print it. The second intervention, students having difficulty relating the number of 10s and 1s to the digits of that number. What can I do to support that group of students? And here's the mini lesson, again, to support those next steps. Any materials you might need, again, are linked directly on this lesson in PDF or in Word. So it's easy right there at your fingertips, and you can print this. Then you might have students that are ready to model and compare numbers greater than 50. What do I do with those students too? And so there's a great mini lesson that helps extend for those students that you have. The other piece of related resources that teachers are loving, there's always possible misconceptions, and what is the support that we can provide students that have these? And so for skip counting in particular, students confuses the number of cubes with the number of 10s. That happens quite a bit. What support can we provide those students? Here's your what to do right in the moment for that misconception. There's also some great next steps for after the lesson. So next steps in class. It could be another lesson or a mini lesson that you use, and you can print that off. And next steps at home. We wanted to provide you with as much support as possible if you have that home parent connection. And so here is some next steps that you can use to support the parents at home. There's usually either a letter or some things that you can share for printing off for at home and sharing with the parents as well. There's support for word walls here. And the next piece I really love are the related lessons. So what lessons are on grade that I can go to next that help support the one I just did? And you can go back. This whole slider here is really that learning progression, so you can go forward and back on it. I'm going to go forward to see where we are. And you can see that we have related lessons. And right here, I just thought I'd share with you, since we have one here, an on-grade math little book. And so let's take a quick look at the one that is related to this lesson. It's at the corn farm. And so for our math little books, as I mentioned before, there's 72 from K to 3. And inside Mathology.ca, you have access to 18 of them. And so at the corn farm is a grade 1 little book. It's on number. We will provide, if there is one, the reading level, and these are the Fountas and Pinnell reading levels. The focus for this lesson around this math little book, your curriculum connection, your processes and competencies, as well as where this little book is on our learning progression. You can see this one is a rich one. It actually unpacks 2 of the big ideas from that learning progression. So that is the about. Under details, you get to know a little bit more about this math little book. You can also link directly to a wordless text. When we did our first prototypes of the math little books, teachers said to us that they love the stories, they're great, but as in language arts, oftentimes you would start with a wordless text, so you can start working with prediction. And so this links directly to a text without words, and you can project that and work with it. There's information on the first read as well, so it gives you some support there. And then under related resources, some ideas for after reading, as well as additional activity options. And there's a wealth of line masters here, again in PDF and Word, that you can access for each math little book, and related lessons that go forward and back. So that is a very quick walkthrough of Mathology.ca, and I'm going to take you quickly to the home screen, back to the beginning. I talked to you about favorites. You have a chance as you're doing all these lessons to put a favorite or a heart beside each one. There's a really good reason for that. When we did our research, we spent a lot of time observing classrooms, and we saw that as teachers are preparing for their lessons, they would bring any supporting materials in and put them right on their desk. And so if you can consider this your desktop, you'll see three things that are pinned here. We wanted to give you the things that you need on that day and the ability to pin them to the top, so they're the first thing you see. And see, there are three that are pinned here. So how did we get there? Under favorites, here are all the lessons that you have favorited, and at the top you have 3 pinned lessons. So say we've already read on Safari, one of the math little books. I don't want that pinned to my desktop anymore. I'll hit that pin and it goes away. But I may want to go next to, I haven't spent enough time at the corn farm. I'm going to pin that. So what happens when I do that? I'll go back to my home screen, and you can see that At the Corn Farm has been added to our lesson. So that is a really quick walkthrough of Mathology.ca. I have 3 or 4 more slides to give you a bit more information about Mathology.ca itself. Daniel, has there been any questions that have come up about Mathology.ca in chat? Well, if not, I'm going to keep rolling because we're getting close to the end here. We've taken a quick look through, so I wanted to share with you what's inside. So what's inside Mathology.ca is a carefully curated, curriculum-focused, rich lesson plans. At grade 1, grade 1 is done and complete now. You'll see that there's 101 lessons from the activity kit. There are 34 K-1 math little books. The learning progression is inside, as well as 100 plus professional learning videos. Grade 2 is going to be available in the fall. And so at grade 2, we actually have more lessons. When we did our research around the differences and similarities between grade 1 and 2, we did learn from teachers that as you go up the grades, that the gaps in student understanding tend to broaden and grow. And so there was a need for intervention lessons and more of them at grade 2. And so you'll see that there's a lot more lessons at grade 2 than in grade 1, and that's to support intervention. There are 38 grade 1 and 2 math little books inside grade 2. The learning progression is there, and because there's more activities, there's 160 plus professional learning videos. Just know that Mathology.ca, our French immersion version, grade 1 is coming out in the fall. We're quite happy about that. And for Mathology in general, grades 3 and 4 coming in the fall of 2020. And I'm just going to talk. This is the question that typically comes next. What does Mathology.ca cost? So a couple of options here for you. There's a 1-year subscription. You might want to toe dip for a year. That 1-year subscription is $140 per teacher. So you can just see how richly built it is with lots of great lesson plans that's targeted on curriculum. So that's $140 per year per teacher. If you wish to go for a 5-year subscription, that's also available, and that gives you a 5% discount. So it's $665 for that 5-year. And also know that if you already have the print components, there are some discounts built in as well. The more components you build, the better the discount. And so one of the last slides I'm going to show you today will be your Pearson representatives that you might want to talk to a little bit more about pricing. The next, some of your next steps. Some of you might have come to us because you have just completed a 45-day free trial, and you might need to see more. Our free trial can be accessed at etr.mathology.ca. If you've completed a trial but you might have a few questions about it, there's a very simple help. It is help@mathology.ca. If you've watched this webinar, we are recording it, and you think, I would like someone else to see these recordings or come to a live one, we have one live session left in this series. We've done 9. This is the 9th, and there's one more left. It's Thursday, so the day after tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also that will be 4 p.m. Mountain. So Thursday, there is another one if you care to attend. So we've reached the last screen. It's the Q&A and also who to contact. And so you can see your representatives from each of the provinces here. They're there. I'm going to leave this screen up for the next 5 minutes in case you need to jot down who these people are and get any questions asked of them. But you have me here live right now. Are there any questions that you might want to ask me that I can work on right now with you? Well, unless you have any further questions, again, it's Patty Henderson from Pearson, the Math Marketing Manager. I've been very pleased to have you with me today at the end of a very busy day for you. So thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. I'll leave this screen up for the next 5 minutes should you need it. And I just want to say thanks so much. Have a good rest of your school year. Take care.